So what is the most important thing you remember about organized crime?
That it's a pretty nasty business. That's the easiest way to put it.
How old were you when organized crime first started?
I wasn't born when organized crime first started. It started years ago, back probably in the 1800s in Italy. And some of these people moved to the United States and they organized different crimes, different families to get what they wanted, whether it be booze or whatever.
How old were you when you, the first thing you remember, how old were you, in the United States?
Oh, probably about 5 or 6 years old.
Got it. Did it or affect you in any way, or your family, friends?
Well, I in a minor way, because this was Depression times. Well, it was actually before I was 5 or 6 years. It was in Depression times, and my parents had a little candy store in Jersey, in Trenton. In order to make money, they would buy alcohol and put some burnt sugar in it and sell it as whiskey just to make a living. And the only place you can get the pure grain alcohol is from the mob bosses.
That's cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to ask you this question again, but because the videotape caught it. But do you remember anything about Al Capone, or can you explain?
Yeah, Al Capone was a bootlegger. He only got established because of Prohibition. If it wasn't for Prohibition, Al Capone, I don't think would have ever existed, because he imported whiskey from Canada, and from Mexico, from bootleggers down south who made the alcohol and beer, and he sold it and he made a fortune because it was illegal and people would pay any kind of money to get it.
Got it. Can you name some of the troubles that organized crime caused in the USA?
What had caused in the USA?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious. Building contractors were having problems, garbage collector were having problems, and almost every business, home mom and pop business at one time or another where they were established would have problems with the neighborhood so-called families.
And this is another gangster leader. Do you remember anything about Johnny Torrio?
Johnny Torrio?
Yeah.
Johnny Torrio, was he from New York?
Yes, he was.
He was, I think Torrio was probably from, wait a minute, he is a crime boss, I think, today, isn't he?
I'm not sure about that.
I don't know which crime family he belonged to, but there were 5 major crime families in New York.
Yeah, do you know some of the names were?
Oh, wait, let me get it. I'll be back. Let me get my some notes. My memory is not as good as it used to be. The 5 crime families in New York were the Genovese, the Gambino, the Lucchese, Bonanno, and Colombo families. And let me see something here. I think I had a note. No, Toro I don't remember. I don't know.
Do you know? Can you tell me some of the things you remember about bootlegging?
Bootlegging still goes on today.
Does?
They make booze down in through the Carolinas and through Virginia and Kentucky, and they get corn and they make it into mash and they make pure grain alcohol. And the alcohol is put up in bottles and they sell it to whoever, and the bootleggers are constantly after these guys. There's even a show on TV. I don't know how they managed to get a show on TV and the feds can't find these people.
What was the most like terrifying or like scariest thing you remember about organized crime or that you heard about?
Oh, that would be the St. Valentine's Day massacre. They killed 14 other opponents, lined them up against the wall and shot them dead. I think it occurred in Boston, if I'm not mistaken.
Can you explain a little bit more on that? I just want to know what that is. Or do you know?
Oh, I don't even remember the crime families. I just remember the story of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Now, whether it was Capone or one of those others, but it was pretty bad.
Like I heard stories about things happening in New York. Do you remember any of them?
Where, in New York?
Yeah, New York.
You know, and the stories you hear, some, you know, like there's the movie The Godfather. Portion of that is fantasy, and some of it is based on fact. But most of the time, if there were an adversary that you didn't like, he just disappeared. And if he just disappeared, that was just a crime. But most of the time, if they wanted to make sure their adversaries knew it was murder, they would leave him in the open so that they knew it was a form of revenge or restitution for what happened before.
Good. You were talking about like parents owning a candy shop?
What's this?
You were talking about your parents owning a shop, or you just said something? Like, what did your parents do for a living?
Oh, they had a little store. It was a little candy store in Broad Street Park in Trenton.
Yeah.
This was in the 30s.
Got it. And can you just explain to me like how that candy store was affected by like organized crime?
Well, in the Depression, if you made 50 cents on something, you made a great big deal of money.
Yeah.
And other places they would buy, say, a gallon of pure grain alcohol, and what they take the alcohol, they burn some sugar so that it give the alcohol a color of whiskey, and then they would sell it for maybe 10 cents a shot, and from the gallon they were able to make a bit of profit to buy groceries and stuff like that.
And so it had no like whiskey in it, alcohol in it, right?
Oh yeah, it was pure grain alcohol. It was 180 proof. It would burn. You could put it in your car. It was terrible stuff.
Did organized crime affect people outside the USA or states where it was?
Oh yeah. I mean, there are a Russian mafia. There is a Jewish mafia. There is just about every country in the world in some form or another suffers from some form of organized crime.
Can you explain some of the actions the USA took to stop organized crime?
Well, Bobby Kennedy was pretty active in trying to bring Jimmy Hoffa to justice because of the shenanigans that they thought that the Teamsters Union was involved with. And the State Department is constantly after all. They have the names of all these people who are bosses of these crime families, and they keep an eye on them every minute of just about every day, every move they make. And the minute they step out of line, I'm sure the State Department would be ready to pounce on them.
Got it. When first crime started in the USA, what was like people's initial reactions, or like how did people take it?
Reaction of
like the people in those cities or states where it first started. Like, did they take it seriously, or did they just take it as like?
Oh, they took it very seriously because most of the crime families originated in the United States in a time of depression, when people had very little money. There was a stock market crash, and people were struggling to make a dollar. And whatever it took to be able to feed their families, they did. If it meant going after Joe Smith on the corner who owed one of the loan sharks money to beat him up to get the money, they did it. And it in a sense, it affected everybody. Everybody tried to keep their noses clean. If they ran a store, they had to be careful that they bought the right product from the right people, or else they would be boycotted by the family of the crime family. And it's not a laughing matter. It's quite serious, and it goes on to this day.
So you were telling me about how people took it seriously. When they first started, were there other like crimes that were going on?
The crimes, they were involved in just about everything. They were involved in prostitution. They were involved in drugs. They were involved in money laundering. They were involved in making sure that the garbage collection was given to a certain group of people, so on and so forth. And the loan sharks, you needed money. You'd go to a loan shark and say, I need some money. Well, he'd loan you $5 if you gave him $7 back. And this day and age, it doesn't sound like much because the credit card companies charge you more than that. But back then, people weren't making a lot of money. $5 might have been your whole salary for the week.
Okay. And can you explain some of the reasons that organized crime affected like the economy?
Oh yeah, it still does today. Things that might be done much cheaper can't be done much cheaper because of the way things are organized. You have to pay union rates, even though maybe a non-union individual can work just as well. But maybe the non-union guy will work for $15 an hour when the union guy wants $35 an hour. And union says the job don't get done unless you pay $35 an hour.
Okay. And besides it affecting the economy, did it affect the society or places near like mob sites?
Oh yeah, people were afraid.
Okay, how did, like, you said how people were afraid, but, like, how did people react when living near these places? Like, would they stay in their homes most of the time, or would they leave their houses and, like...
Oh, I mean, it was, at times, if there was a war between crime families going on, they were very careful where they went. They stayed out of places that they knew mob individuals would frequent, things like that.
And you're talking about wars, like, between mobs?
Yes.
How, like, serious were they? Like, were they, like, really bloody, or was it just, like...
They'd shoot each other.
They'd shoot each other?
Oh, certainly. Like I told you before, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Right. And, like, besides, like, what were some of the things that were extreme black markets for? Was there whiskey and wine and beer? Just any alcohol product, or were there like drugs?
Yes, because there was prohibition. The government says they forbade the sale of alcohol.
But, so prohibition is just alcohol. It's not drugs or...
Oh, during the prohibition, it was mostly alcohol because there's the largest profit in it. Most of the crime families in the early days didn't deal with drugs because they thought that drugs were a black society problem, not mafia problem. But later on, I guess as people got more affluent, they bought everything they could, so they were involved in anything later on.
Did organized crime help the Great Depression in any way, or did it more like discourage it?
During the Depression, there were people who made a bundle of money, and there were people who didn't. And how you could separate the two, whether the crime families did anything to improve it or make it worse, I kind of doubt it. It was just a situation where there was an opportunity to make money, and they did.
Okay. And how are everyday stores and businesses influenced by organized crime? Like, did they use black markets and bootlegging to raise their profits?
Yeah,
They did?
yeah, and there were like say for instance at times when, say you owned a little grocery store, and the mob, the crime family in the area, say, produced, say, Kraft cheese was their product. They'd go into your little grocery store and they'd look around and they'd say, Mr. John, you don't have any Kraft cheese in your store. Well, I can get this cheese cheaper. You don't have any Kraft cheese in your store. So the next thing you know, there was Kraft cheese in the store, or else there'd be a problem.
So, for my project, I need a picture of you, so can I just take one picture?
You're taking a picture now, aren't you?
Oh, that's a video.
Oh,
But can I take one picture?
oh, okay. You got a picture?
Yeah. I have a little camera here. I think. My dad gave it to me. So, here we go.
Smile.
Volcker, who headed the Federal Reserve in the 1980s during the Carter and Reagan
Let me just take one.
knows about resistance. What's happening?
Okay, thank you. That's it.
That's it? The end of the interview? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, my electric bill.
Thank you, Mr. Garland.
Well, I hope I helped you. There's so many things that you can get into that it's not a fun business being in a crime family. It's very, very, very nasty. There are no retirement plans. You better shut it off.
Yeah, sure.